What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Beating the Bookie show. College football is here. Week 0, we're finally into it. Thank God. BTB, as always, happy to see you. My friend, golf season's over. Well, almost over, but it's football time now. That's all that I can think about.
Yeah, it was a long off season, but it seems like it got here a little faster, ending on my Hurricanes ending their season on an interception at the goal line was kind of a disappointment, but I was just happy to be there, to be honest. I mean, we witnessed some great games in the playoffs. You got, Ole Miss,
Oh,
Georgia, one of the games of the year, Miami, Ole Miss, probably it was the
unreal.
best. They were calling it the best fourth quarter ever in like a playoff bowl game. So looking forward to
And I was at
this year.
both of them, baby. Phenomenal experience. I wish
Uh,
not for your
I got
sake,
I
but I
got
wish.
the I got
Unbelievable.
the I got
Unbelievable.
the I got the Fiesta Bowl champions shirt on right here.
Well, there were plenty of them for sale after that game. I know that much.
You almost had it, but I'm looking forward to. I would say this is by far the most drama filled offseason we've ever had in college football. It's basically turning to the NBA. You've got pros coming back to college. Um, a lot of Ole Miss guys,
None of
undrafted,
them coming
going
back
to.
to Ole Miss, though.
I heard that they told the one guy, the big lineman, that he was too. He hasn't worked out. They said at all. He's like almost 400 pounds. They told him like they didn't really want him back. He could play offensive line if he came back, but that's what they're just saying online. I know people are going to be saying stuff, and I thought it was crazy. The tight end actually talked. He talked trash about Lane Kiffin after the Sugar Bowl
Big
last
trash.
year, only to come back, to Lane Kiffin. So, we'll see what happens with the SEC and these pro players coming back. I mean, we saw the Big Ten today ban them. The ACC is moving to ban them. So I don't think the SEC will be far behind. But once they do, I'm sure we're going to get lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits. That's what happens now in college. You just find one judge who agrees with you, and
Pepper
you,
'em.
you just you get your way. And a lot of people are comparing. They're like, well, Trinidad Chambliss got a extra year of eligibility from a judge. Well, I think that's a lot different. He didn't declare for the draft. He didn't try to change schools within the conference. And that's another thing. You're basically you're circumventing the conference rules of the SEC by going from one SEC school to another just because you have an NFL team, mixed in between. So it's very interesting how this offseason has played out. And I think it's just crazy that it's like, some teams kick off in 3 days, and these rosters are still not set yet. And they said if LSU wants to add these 5 players from the NFL, they're gonna have to cut like 6 players who have been training with them all offseason. So it's I don't really think it's
Business is
fair.
business, man. I don't know. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Lane Kiffin, business is business. He won't care if he cuts somebody, right? He won't shed a tear. So um, we saw Kirby Smart today say he wouldn't do that. He's not bringing back any pros. They're not there for a reason. So it'll be interesting, to see um, how coaches you're definitely getting a bunch of heels early. I would say like LSU is leading the country as far as being the college football heel for this next season. So they got a game with Clemson to open the year, and crazy things have happened. So Dabo Swinney's a good coach. We'll see what happens there, but definitely looking forward to it after a long, long off season.
Absolutely. I mean, that first game against Clemson, LSU is going to be a phenomenal game. I would imagine, Clemson's not going to be on the good side at the end of that one.
Yeah, I mean Dabo Swinney just only started taking transfer portal players, right? He refused to do that up until like last year. So I don't think he would take pros, but with his job on the line, maybe he would now. I know he'd definitely like to take Trevor Lawrence back if he could for
Yeah,
another
that's
year.
for sure.
But yeah, we start off this week with it's kind of a week 0. There's like 8 games. So we start off nice and easy. We ease our way into this. And college football season this year goes all the way to February. So nearly just as long as the NFL. I think that's a little crazy, to be honest. I mean, it should be shortened a little bit, but every year they're lengthening it. They're going to add more to the playoffs. So, this week we kick off with the game that's in Ireland every year to start the year. We've had Florida State, Georgia Tech in the past. We've had Notre Dame. Last year we had Iowa State, Kansas State. This year we get blessed with the worst matchup they've probably had: North Carolina versus TCU. Two teams that are down and out. Josh Hoover left TCU last year. He went up to Indiana, so they're replacing their quarterback. North Carolina, they are bad, bad, bad. Bill Belichick, was supposed to turn them around quickly, but things kind of went south very fast. There's more drama with him and his fiance than there is with the actual
No,
team. So we've seen North Carolina. Their over under this year is 4.5 wins. So the books don't expect a lot from them. But TCU is minus 8.5 in this game, and to be honest, I think both teams suck. But if I had to bet one, I'd probably take TCU just because North Carolina, zero depth, not much talent, to be honest. But that's a game I'll probably stay away from.
it's going to be a struggle to stay away from it, just because it's the opening game and everybody's going to be watching it.
Yeah.
I just, you can't put anything on North Carolina, especially with all the drama and off the field stuff that's been going on. And I know that really has nothing to do with the on the field product, but I think in this situation, it may have a little bit to do with it. So, yeah, I mean, TCU, I would expect a little bit of I mean, I don't know. They're down too. So I would just expect a kind of a trash can opening game.
Yeah, it pretty much is. And this matchup was probably made a couple years before these teams were actually trash cans. So we go on to the second matchup of the day: San Jose State at USC. For me,
Top
I
25
have,
USC.
and I think I'm usually very low on USC. I'm not like a big you know a big USC guy. But I think this year, Jada Maivea, quarterback, he's one of the three guys I bet to win the Heisman. I think I got him 28 to 1. I really like him to win the Heisman because he's got a favorable schedule. San Jose State's a game where he can easily throw 5 touchdowns to start the year, right? So he can get that quick boost early. I think he'd be 28 to 1 now. If he throws 5 touchdowns week 0, he's going to go down to 15 to 1, right? And the San Jose State's a team where he can very well do that. So I like Jada Maivea to win the Heisman 28 to 1. So I'll be rooting for him to put up some stats in this game.
There you go. A little BTB free play action there. Moving
And then
on to the next game, NC State, Virginia. I mean, what are your thoughts here?
this game's crazy because I don't believe this game counts for the ACC standings,
Isn't that nuts?
which is just some long-standing agreement they've had. So this game does not count for ACC standings, which is kind of unbelievable to me. But we see Virginia coming off Virginia, for all intents and purposes, was an ACC championship win away last year from keeping the Hurricanes out of the playoffs, right? But they lost to Duke in the ACC championship game. They choked.
In
Now they play
horrible fashion.
NC State, who I've seen a few people be kind of high on NC State this year, but I'm not really very high on them, to be honest. I just think it's going to be a tough game for them to win. I think Virginia's going to be tough. Virginia always plays tough. They've got a pretty solid head coach. But this is an early game. It's a rivalry game. So that +6 for NC State might be a little too much to stay away from. But, that's a rivalry game week 1. And I think those are always very tough to bet. So, if I had to bet anything this game, I'd probably take NC State +6, but I'll likely stay away from that one.
Yeah, it's tough to just jump right into it. Obviously you want to betting on all the games on week 0, but I mean we have no idea how these teams are gonna fare. I
And
mean
and that's
it's all
that's
kind of just
that's
a gamble.
honestly something that I would do. Like, this is 5-10 years ago, I would bet every single game just because it was on TV, right? But now I think part of becoming a smarter better is only betting what you say you're going to bet, what you like. Don't just bet something because it's on TV, right? That's the mistake most people make. Um, so after that, we got, this is probably the best game of the day: Jacksonville State versus North Dakota State, right? The Bison taking on the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State, who is not in Florida, by the way. They're in Alabama. A lot of people think Jacksonville State's in Florida, but it's actually in Alabama.
Thought that
I
till a
think
couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that at first too, but before I really followed the sports, but that'll be a pretty good game. I give North Dakota State a lot of credit. They always take on like tougher conference opponents who are up a division. So um, I think that'll be a pretty solid game. I know North Dakota State's replacing a lot of talent, so I'm interested to see how that one goes. Then we got Sacramento State, Eastern Michigan, which honestly I could care less about that one. Sacramento State's a new team to Division 1A, to the FCS or whatever, and or FBS.
Yes, new
Um,
FBS team,
so
whatever it is.
they actually have pretty deep pockets. It's kind of wild. Sacramento State, they actually had that quarterback from Florida that transferred from Florida a few years ago that didn't play. That had the NIL controversy. I forget what his name was. He went to Arizona State and he was real bad.
Rashada,
Yeah, Jalen. He went
they
to
got
Sacramento
Jaden
State.
Rashada.
Um, I think he might have transferred, but let's
Wow,
see.
that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Yeah, he was in the Ole Miss recruiting trail as well.
Yeah,
Florida, Miami.
he was at Sacramento State, but you won't believe who he's playing for this. Oh, this is his fourth team this year. He's on in 3 years. Guess who he's playing for this year?
Texas State.
Mississippi State. He's a Bulldog, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that one when he's getting
He talked
spanked
a lot of
against Ole Miss Saturday.
crap about Oxford and Ole Miss when he was telling him he
He
wasn't going
already
to come there. So
he already
not good.
guaranteed an Egg Bowl win already. So
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
we'll see how that goes. But then
Yeah,
you got the night game. We got usually the degenerate bailout game of the week.
the
Hawaii,
Bows.
the Hawaii Rainbows against Stanford. I'm looking forward to watching this game because the Hurricanes play Stanford at Stanford in week 1. And I'm just expecting a bloodbath. When Stanford's only -4 points at home against Hawaii, it's going to be a tough year. And folks, if I'm betting this game, I'm taking Hawaii +4 because I think Hawaii, um,
Give me the Bows, baby.
they're always tough and feisty. I think Stanford, I just don't see it from them. That they have to get so much talent from last year's team, which was terrible. They're trying to replace talent, and I just think Stanford is not really a draw anymore for a lot of players to go to. They're trying to pump a lot of money into their NIL, but I don't think they've really had the chance to do that yet. So, unfortunately for them, Andrew Luck can't help them on the field. So, I think Hawaii is going to give them a lot of trouble this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hawaii won that game outright.
Love it, love it, love the Rainbow Warriors. Moving on, we got Florida State, FSU versus New Mexico State. Should be a, I mean, it should be a Florida State beatdown. One would think.
Yeah, Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell already said he's not giving his depth chart out before the game. He's keeping it a secret. So that's how you know things are bad for Florida State when Mike Norvell's not
He may
releasing
not
his
even
depth
know.
chart for New Mexico State. So, um, Florida State's got a quarterback this year from Auburn who couldn't even start for Auburn last year. So Florida State, they had their best. It's a tough spot for them because they wanted Mike Norvell fired, but his buyout was so high that they're already paying another buyout, so they couldn't really afford to fire him. And the NIL funds have been kind of down for them. Their best players left to other schools. They did terribly recruiting. They did terrible in the portal. So I think their best pickup recruiting was their punter, an Australian kid. So I think it's going to be a tough year for Florida State. And personally, I played Florida State under, I think it was under 6.5 wins. I don't really see them getting to 5 wins, to be honest. I think they're going to be pretty bad this year. And you can usually tell with a line like this, they're only -31 points against New Mexico State, where they would usually first game of the season they're like -50, right? So I think it's the opposite of Florida State from last year. Florida State last year, first game they beat Alabama out of nowhere. You know, Nobody expected that last year, and they actually go to Bama. I think it's week 2 or 3 of this season. They go to Bama. So you never know. One game they can get a repeat performance maybe, but it's just tough to see. Norvell's been taking so much fire. Um, he's just been
A
taking so
stressful
much,
offseason for him, I would imagine.
very stressful. And it's like when he has to win. And even if he wins 9 games or something, he might still be a lame duck, right? So it's really tough. Mike Norvell is definitely in a tough spot, but he did it to himself, really. So Florida State minus 31. I'd probably, New Mexico State, if they score 14 points, I think they can cover this game, but I'll probably stay off this game. The only thing I would play is New Mexico State team total over if it was low enough. Like let's take a look at what it is right now. If it's even out, it's not even out yet. So I'd say it's 26, 13
10
total.
and a half. It's 10 and a half
Yeah.
plus 105 at DraftKings right now.
I might take their team total over, to be honest, because I think they could score, maybe 2 touchdowns. Because like I said, Florida State, their depth is down. They lost their best player on defense, and they didn't get much in the form of replacements with transfers or recruits. So I think if I play that game, it's probably going to be New Mexico State team total over.
Then we got Mike Norvell's former team, Memphis Tigers, in the nightcap, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock
At,
on that
in Las
Saturday
Vegas.
opening zero. Yeah, in
In
Las
Las
Vegas should be
Vegas.
a phenomenal one.
Yeah, hopefully the Memphis players stay out of trouble in Vegas the night before the game. I think I'm interested to see what Memphis does with their new head coach. I like Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen has proved that Florida fired him too quickly. Um, Dan Mullen's done a great job with UNLV.
Killer.
They've been really close to making it playoffs. With an at-large berth and stuff. And I think UNLV is gonna be pretty good this year. But I know they're doing the two quarterback system with the kid that transferred from Michigan,
I
and
can't
they
think of
got
his name.
he's what's his name? It's like
Orgy.
Alex Orgy. Yeah, they got Alex Orgy, and they got Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. Um, you know, Jackson Arnold, I'd probably give him the benefit of the doubt there for the starting job. But he said he's going to rotate quarterbacks this game, obviously, and you just want to see what each one has to give. But we've seen Orgy play last year; he wasn't very good, and he also wasn't very good at Michigan. So Memphis, like I said, with a new head coaching style, I'm interested to see what kind of offense they're running. Are they going to do the hurry up? Are they going to run that power run game that they've done in the past? It's going to be a whole new system for Memphis. So I would take UNLV in this game, and just for the coaching advantage that Dan Mullen has. For your first game as a head coach for Memphis, it's going to be tough to really implement
Go on the
your.
road week zero, go to Vegas and pick up a victory. I mean, it's gonna be tough. It's an established UNLV team.
It is. So if I played anything this game, I'd probably take UNLV minus the 4.5. So that's all the games we've got for week zero. And then next week we got week one starting. We got Colorado, Georgia Tech. Prime is heading to Atlanta, to his former hometown, to play the Yellow Jackets, and I think Colorado's going to be in for a beating in that game. We got some good games week one. We got the Hurricanes. They're heading out west to play Stanford. You got East Carolina, Alabama, Liberty, James Madison, North Texas, Indiana, which would have been a good matchup last year.
Last year would have been awesome.
But North Texas replacing North Texas, give them a shout out. They went 5-1 last year for me for max plays. So I always appreciate their service for that. Obviously, their coach, their quarterback, and their quarterback, running back, and wide receiver from last year are all at Oklahoma State now.
They've got
Uh,
Tulsa week one.
so I'm
Oklahoma
looking
State
forward to that.
does.
You got Ohio, Nebraska, Oregon State, Houston. People are expecting Houston to be improved this year. You got Kent State, South Carolina, Baylor, Auburn, Boise, Boise at Oregon, which Boise could
It's gonna
give
be a
people
good one.
some trouble. Historically, but I don't know about these days. Texas State, Texas, Tulane, Duke, Oklahoma State, Tulsa. Uh, you got Missouri State, Texas A&M, Clemson, LSU is probably the
Marquee
mar-
matchup, I would say.
marquee matchup of week one. You've got that game is currently off the board. LSU was minus 9.5, minus 120, but the game's currently off the board probably because they're waiting for the ruling by the SEC most likely. You got Florida, Atlantic, Florida. Um, can Florida beat a Sun Belt FAU team? They lost to South Florida last year at home at the Swamp. So Florida's coming in with their new coach, Billy Napier. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how Florida. I see a lot of people picking Florida this year over 9.5 wins, and personally, I think it's a little too close a little too fast to be jumping on that wagon. But that'll be an interesting game. But Florida's laying 26.5 points. So for Gators fans, if they win by less than 4 touchdowns, it's going to be a failure. Then we got UNLV Hawaii at Hawaii. That'll actually be a pretty good game. UCLA at Cal. Western Kentucky, Nevada, Washington State, Washington, Louisville, Ole Miss. That's also another sneaky. That might be the best matchup of Week 1. Ole Miss is currently -6.5, and that game's also blacked out right now on the board because I guess
It's up in the air.
maybe they're taking some transfers. Or is Ole Miss taking any NFL players?
Not that I've heard.
You just
Not that
never
I've heard.
you really never know these days. Then you got Wisconsin, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is minus 20.5 points. I think there's a good chance
Would
Notre
imagine
Dame
they'd cover that.
there's a good chance Notre Dame wins this game by 30 plus because Wisconsin not very good. Coach is a total bum. So I think Notre Dame probably crushes Wisconsin by 30 plus. If you ask me, then the final game of Week 1, SMU at Florida State. SMU is -2.5 points. They're -130 on the money line. And that's a spot where I love SMU. SMU's got Kevin Jennings at quarterback. They got Rhett Lashley at coach. They're always one of the fastest teams in the country. And they've got winning experience, right? This is a team that's been in the playoffs. Rhett Lashley's done an amazing job at SMU. Former Hurricanes offensive coordinator. He can put up points, and he really knows how to coach. He's definitely I got a much better coach than Mike Norvell. And I think any Florida State fan right now would, if you were like, hey, we'll give you Rhett Lashley, and you take Mike Norvell,
Maybe take it and quit.
in a heartbeat. So I like SMU in that spot. So that's all we got for weeks 0 and 1. Just looking forward to getting the season started.
National champion predictions.
Miami Hurricanes plus 1,100.
Phew. Sounds like a man that's already got a ticket to me.
So I'm hoping, it's, I don't want to get my hopes up. I never get my hopes up for the Canes because they always let me down. But last year, pleasantly surprised with the run to the national championship game. I obviously think Indiana will be up there again this year. I think Indiana and Miami were disrespected in the polls 6th and 7th when they brought back so much talent, both teams. And Miami, people are seeing now that Carson Beck's good because he might be the starting quarterback for Arizona.
Right.
But I think Darian Mensah is just as good, if not maybe better. So I think Miami got even better, even though they did lose some defense, but their offense will be much better this year. And I think Indiana will just, will be just as good. Obviously, it's hard to duplicate undefeated season, right? But I think Signetti, you got to give him his flowers. He's probably one of the best top 3 coaches in the country right now. So I think Indiana will be a force to be reckoned with. I do think that one of the top 5 teams will probably be a letdown, like whether it's Texas, whether it's Oregon. I think Oregon being ranked 2nd is a total joke. Like, how about they win a big game first in the playoffs before they get ranked like so high? So I think it's an interesting year, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
It's going to be a fun year. Looking forward to getting back in the swing of doing the Beat the Bookie show. It's going to be a fun year. Absolutely. BTB, best of luck to you, my friend.
Thanks. Good luck, and we will see you guys next week.
Yes, sir. See you.